Hi, everyone. Dr. Victoria Skirbo here, speaking to you from the Seed to Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. I'm here in my little nook in my upstairs room where I do my my reads and my videos. And we're going to look at the second week of May 2023. And we're looking at May 7th through the 13th, so Sunday through Saturday. And we have a lot of the energy is very intense at this time. In the first week, we had a full moon lunar eclipse, and we're at the end of eclipse season now. So with last week's full moon in Scorpio, that moon was placed at the 15th degree of Scorpio with the sun at the 15th degree of Taurus. Those are the cross quarter points in the zodiacal calendar, known by the pagans as Beltane and Samhain. So it is a powerful energy, transformational, and as all these whether we're dealing with solstices or we're dealing with equinoxes or cross-quarter days, they're always high energy days, and also days when the veil between the living and the dead is thin. So it is a powerful, it's an easy influence to sort of leave on those at those times, or for information to come in at those times. So we do definitely need to be paying attention to the inner self. And we also had last week a conjunction between Mercury and the Sun, and that is the inferior conjunction. Let me just make sure I'm right about that. Actually, no, I'm wrong about that. We have that this week. So we'll get to it. We'll get to all the what's going on. But there is, and then we also have this week the sun make a conjunction to Uranus, and the sun and Uranus has been close to the North Node since last summer, and it's gotten away from it because the nodes have moved away, but the influence is still there, of course, because the North Node is in the same sign as Uranus and Taurus. So we still have those, and we now also have Uranus, which naturally rules Aquarius. We have Pluto in Aquarius. So there's these big sort of shifts, kind of like when you're driving a car and you go into another gear, right? You kind of like rev up a little, and then so it's this change of shifting of gears, or shifting of energies that we're going through. So let's just get started, because there's really a lot to talk about. And this is an intense week, but there's the next week next week is even more intense. It's just an intense May all around. So let's take a look and see what we can glean from what I'm going to share with you guys. So let's okay, so give me a moment. Come on now. Here we go. All right, so let me get a little closer here. For those of you who wonder where I am, I just want to show you the ceiling here. I don't know, hopefully I'll show it to you when we're on full screen, but that is the solar system above my head that my husband Michael put up there for me after he painted the ceiling a deep blue, so it looked like heaven. So this is my little piece of heaven, guys. All right, let's take a look at the second week of May. We start with Sunday, May 7th, which vibrates to a 19-1 vibration. 19-1s are always about revelation, illumination, and new beginnings. What do we have on that day? We have Venus ingress into Cancer. Now, Cancer is a cardinal sign, so whenever and on a world point, that's 0 degrees of Cancer. So whenever that happens, it's as if the axis of the Earth gets shook a little bit, right? Every time a planet goes over that point, the equinox, the solstice point. We also have on the same day as Venus moving into Cancer, making an inconjunct to Pluto. Why is that? Because Pluto is just sitting there at that first degree, barely in the first degree, and pretty much just Pluto, although it is considered moving direct, it is so imperceptible that for all intents and purposes, Pluto is just sitting there. And we'll next week meet up with Jupiter and Mars. So that's this part of the intensity of next week. But let's not jump ahead. Let's set this up, right? So we have Venus in conjunct Pluto. That's the first aspect. Now, generally, it's the squares, the sextiles, the trines, and the conjunctions that sort of count when it comes to the first aspect that something comes to, but inconjuncts definitely count. Having somebody with a number of inconjuncts in their chart. The energy of the inconjunct is that an adjustment needs to be made. So right away, as soon as Venus moves into Cancer, Pluto says you need to make an adjustment in the way you're sort of going about this, Cancer. And of course, Cancer is a water sign. It's emotional, it's initiatory. So there's a lot of emotionality. And Pluto in Aquarius can be somewhat cold. You know, Aquarius is an air sign. It's interested in the idea of humanity and higher vibrational and working together and stuff. But we do have to come up against our own fears with that, fears of being swallowed up maybe by the group, lack of losing your identity and having to like be part of just a group dynamic, which works well, but at some point every group, I don't know about you, but almost every group I've ever like been part of, I've also been kicked out of. So but that's when you move beyond the group in a way, when you move beyond the group thing. So there is this sort of challenge between our feelings and this really necessity on a certain level to kind of get on the same page with the fact that everybody counts, the least of us count. That is an Aquarian ideal. On Tuesday the 9th, which vibrates to a 21-3. This is the World card in the tarot. It is a time of manifestation. Something is given birth to at this time. On that day, we have the Sun conjunct Uranus. What's being given birth on that day at 19 degrees of Taurus? Well, if we look over here on the right side of this diagram, we have what's being born, what is coming into manifestation. The Sun conjunct Uranus, the start of the Sun Uranus synod, illumination and awakening at 19 degrees of Taurus. 19 degrees of Taurus, a new continent rising out of the ocean. I believe, if I'm not incorrect, and I believe I'm correct, this was the exact same image that we had with the Sun, with the North Node conjunct, the Sun conjunct the North Node. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. I had to look at something. A new continent rising out of the ocean, the surge of new potentiality after the crisis. The symbol need hardly be commented upon when the mind has been emptied and light has been called upon to purify the consciousness, freed from its attachment and contaminations. A new release of life. Excuse me, honey. Sorry about this. I'm trying to move something so I can read what I'm trying to read to you. Come on now. Allow me to move this, please. Okay, sorry about that, guys. The mind has emptied and light has been called upon to purify the consciousness, freed from its attachment and contaminations. A new release of life can emerge out of the infinite ocean of potentiality. The virgin space, what will it be used for? And then, because, that's not enough. On Friday, we have a waxing sextile between Mercury and Saturn. When we get to that slide, you'll see why that's significant, or maybe even more significant. And we also have a last quarter moon in Aquarius. Now, this is the last quarter moon of the synodic cycle that began with that eclipse. So we're not quite out of the eclipse energy yet. We're certainly not out of the lunation cycle of that eclipse. And it's a very powerful last quarter moon crisis in consciousness moon. And then on Saturday the 13th, we have Venus making a waxing trine to Saturn at 7 degrees of Cancer Pisces. Venus is how we relate to one another, how we relate to ourselves, what is important to us, what we value. And Saturn wants to bring structure to that. And there's a flow of energy here, and it's a creative energy. So we'll see how that's going to manifest itself. If we look here at the Kabbalah and where this is all happening, the sun, which is here, the sun is Tiphareth conjunct Uranus. Uranus is here. Okay, and here we have the sun conjunct Uranus. There's the conjunction energy. This is the path associated with Aries. And what's in Aries at the time of this conjunction is Jupiter, which always makes things bigger. Eris, which is the energy of the rebellion, and Chiron, the wounded masculine, or the need for the wounds around identity. So this is a very, very potent and powerful conjunction between the sun and Uranus, because it's all and in Taurus. And then Uranus itself is in Taurus, right? And Uranus in Taurus sits here. And this is the path of Taurus on the tree of life. And this is where Uranus is transiting right now. So we have this very potent combination of energies. This is the pillar of the past, as we can see here. And so there's a lot of energy and information coming from the past. This is the past. This is the place of the this is also the past, but the place of the Akashic records. This is Father God. This is very much, to me, seems like somewhat of a download of information coming from previous lifetimes, as if everything that we've learned in our previous lifetimes are being asked to bring it up and to utilize it so we can make this energetic shift. And we'll see this when we look at the symbols. So let's continue forward here at each one of these. So here's the Venus ingress into Cancer. We can see Venus here. Now, I did use charts for the United States, and I apologize to my other listeners who aren't necessarily from the US, but we are definitely in a very interesting point in our evolution here in the US, with our former president being indicted, and perhaps this week, we will find out if he is in fact found guilty in the case with E. Jean Carroll, which is the only case really, well, not the only case, but the case where that's gonna have a result now during this time period. And because we're dealing with Venus and Pluto on the, starting this week, we know that we're dealing with issues of women and this controlling or power over dynamic that the perhaps toxic masculine feels they have the right feels they have the right. So we have the first degree of Cancer, which is on a ship, sailors lower an old flag and raise a new one. So this is the energy that Venus moves into. It says the radical change of allegiance externalized in a symbolic act, the point of no return. So once you have decided to raise a new flag, you can't go back, right? So once you've committed, you're committed to the end, right? It says the consciousness accepts a process of fundamental reorientation, implying the stabilization of his energies. So this is putting where your money where your mouth is, or putting your back into it, right? This energy of now you have to now you've committed. Now, of course, Cancer in the zodiacal wheel is at the 90-degree point from Aries. And so whatever was put when the sun went into Aries, which if you remember back then, we had Mercury move into Aries, we had the sun move into Aries. We had a new moon in the first degree of Aries, right? At that point. And now here we have this Cancer moving into that first degree of Cancer. And when all the planets move into that first degree of Cancer, you're going to feel it. But with Venus here now, it deals with Venusian issues, right? Okay. So I always look to see what the ruling planet of the sign that is just, entered a new sign. So we have Venus that just entered into Cancer. So I like to see where the moon sits, and we can see here that the moon is at 10-11 degrees of Sagittarius as Venus moves into Cancer. Now, just the energy, the difference between Venus and Cancer, Cancer and Sag Cancer is, very sort of internal, interior, wants to create a home, wants to feel safe in their environment. And then you have the moon and Sag wanting to go travel and see things and have freedom. And so already there's this push-pull between wanting to stay safe and needing to sort of get out there and to a certain extent experience the world, the moon in Sag. But if we look at the Sabine symbol for 11 of Sag, it says the left section of an archaic temple, a lamp burns in a container shaped like a human body. It says the value of the return to the body, advocated by modern thinkers in order to balance the stress on intellectuality and objective consciousness. This is about getting into your body, getting into your feelings. We have an opportunity to feel the feels, and we're going to be feeling the feel. The need to rely upon the wisdom of the body. We're very dependent on our minds, and we need to make sure we give our hearts and our bodies the same consideration and the same time that we give our minds. And then I have here the first aspect is an in conjunct to Pluto, needing to reestablish one's own true worth. Okay. On the 9th, this is big, right? We have the World card here. Something is being manifested. On the Tree of Life, the world sits at the place that if the body was on the Tree of Life, it would be the birth canal. And of course, as we do when we give birth to something, we have labor pains. So we're feeling some labor pains on this one. And here's the conjunction, 19 degrees, just in 19 degrees, 4 more minutes, and it would have been in the next degree. But we have this new continent rising out of the ocean, right? The surge of new potentiality. The key word here is the potential to operate in unconstrained spontaneity, just spontaneously being yourself. And of course, I like to look to see where the ruler of Taurus, what is the ruler of Taurus doing? Well, it's sitting here in Cancer, in the 3rd degree of Cancer, which incidentally is my Mercury. Same place as my Mercury. So listen to me. The ruler of Taurus, Venus, is 3 degrees of Cancer. A man bundled A man bundled in fur leads a shaggy deer. The need to overcome stagnation and cold during a trial of endurance. So this is about getting moving, right? Um, we can see here, just point this out, and I'll point it out in all of them. Here we have the nodes of the moon. If you see, we have Pluto here, square the nodes. So this has been going on for a while. It's only going to get stronger and stronger. And then in July, I believe it is, when Pluto has moved back into Capricorn, it's going to square the nodes after the nodes change signs. This north node will be in Aries and the south node will be in Libra. So we have a sign change here coming up. And the interesting thing about that is that the ruler of the north node right now is Venus, because Venus is the ruler of Taurus. But once the nodes change, Venus will become the ruler of the south node, and Mars will go from being the ruler of the south node to the ruler of the north node. So there is a big shift, and once we understand what we need to survive, then that north node in Aries is asking us to initiate and invent and look into the new ways of being, really, because Aries is about action, but it's mostly about the action of being. So figure out who you are and be that. All right. Okay, let's take a look at, I'm sorry. I think I started to show you what I wanted to show you, but let me just do it here, and then I'll do it in the next one as well. So we have, yes, Pluto square the nodes. If you notice, Mars here at 23 degrees of Cancer is slowly swimming its way, I guess, or sidling its way, because it's in Cancer. It's going to be making an opposition to Pluto. That's going to happen on the 20th, right? So a week from, so in 2 weeks, about 2 weeks, it's going to happen. We also see that Jupiter here is in the last degrees of Aries and will be going into Taurus. That's actually happening on the 16th. So Jupiter goes into Taurus, squares Pluto. Then Mars comes in, opposes Pluto, squares Jupiter, and then Jupiter gets on the node. So this is the tension I'm talking about next week, but we can start to feel it come, and we can feel it now. But we also this week are getting some help. We're getting some help because of the next two aspects that I want to talk about. And that is, well, let's talk about, before we get to the aspects that I think will be helpful, let's take a look at this last quarter moon, right? So the moon here is, let's see, I did the moon in yellow. So here's the sun at 22 degrees of Taurus, and here's the moon at 22 degrees of Aquarius. This is for the US. So we have the sun in the 11th house groups. We have the moon in the 8th house, which is shared resources. So this looks this looks a lot like the debt ceiling in the United States. But I don't want to talk about that because that's not really, you can apply what I'm saying to the debt ceiling. And of course, because we have all this energy in Taurus, and we have the Uranus and Sun in Taurus, and a whole new continent coming up, that continent can really be like some banking thing, right? Some banking thing, something that needs to be developed to keep everybody sort of moving forward on the planet, not just stopping dead in our tracks, right? So, all right, so which we won't do anyway. So even if they do, even if they don't raise the debt ceiling and the worst happens, there's going to be another day and we have to do what we have to do. So to worry about it is not useful, but to be yourself and to shine your light and to live your life to the best of your ability within your integrity and within your wholeness increases our chances that we're going to get what we want or get what we need, actually, because sometimes what we think we want isn't actually what we need. And so we'll get what we need. And the Venus is in Cancer. She's all about getting what you need. All right. So we have the sun at 22 degrees of Taurus as a white dove flying over troubled waters. The spiritual inspiration that comes to the individual in the overcoming of a crisis. Square the moon at 22 degrees of Aquarius. A rug is placed on the floor of a nursery to allow children to play in comfort and warmth. The warmth of understanding which comes those who early in life are open to new possibilities. So this is about doing things in a new way and starting with the kids. You want to start with the kids. The big boys are going to have to put down their weapons, and we're going to have to start taking care of the children and taking care of the planet that the children live on, right? Okay. So we also have on the same day, we have the waxing sextile between Saturn and Mercury. Now, Mercury is retrograde at this time. So, but it doesn't matter. It makes a sextile to Saturn, and we have that in blue. Here's your Mercury retrograde at 7 degrees of Taurus, and here's Saturn at 7 degrees of Pisces. This is the opening of communication, data collection, curiosity, and reporting on the seeds planted at the time of the initial conjunction. Well, what was that? Mercury conjunct Saturn happened on the 2nd of March, 2023, vibrates to a 12-3. That is a magical number, right? There are 12 zodiac signs. 3 is manifestation. 1, 2, 3, ready, set, go, right? At 30 degrees of Aquarius. Well, what is 30 degrees of Aquarius? What is the Sabian symbol for the last degree of Aquarius as Pluto sits in that first degree of Aquarius? Deeply rooted in the past of a very ancient culture, a spiritual brotherhood in which many individual minds are merged into the glowing light of unanimous consciousness is revealed to one who has emerged successfully from his or her metamorphosis. This is the transformational process as we align ourselves with those who vibrate at the same vibrational frequency as we do. And the higher you aspire, the higher the frequency goes, right? So it helps everybody. The ability for the person with an open mind and a deep feeling for self-transcendence to come into contact with higher forms of existence. So this is the opening salvo of that symbol, We have help, guys. We have help. We are the ones you've been waiting for. And everything that we're connected to is there for us as well. Remember, I said all the energy on the right side of the tree, as you look at the tree between Hokmah and Hesed and Tiphereth, that's the energy of the past, our past lives, what we know, what we understand, right? And do we really have past lives? Alternate lives, perhaps, seeing as everything happens at the same time. It's just our consciousness is in time, and that's Saturn. And of course, Saturn's in Pisces right now. So time is pretty mutable. Okay. So we also have and this happens on, I just have to look at the day here. This is the 13th. So this is Saturday. This is the end of the week, or the end of the week as I see it. And we have Venus making a trine to Saturn. Venus making a trine to Saturn. Let's see, here's Saturn at 7 degrees. And here's Venus at 7 degrees of Cancer. So Venus is making a waxing trine to Saturn. What does that mean? Well, it's a time of a trine of passion, creative self-expression and will. This is the Leo side trine, right? The opening trine, creative self-expression, the pinnacle of ego even, okay? So this is the expression of that which was seated at the conjunction of Venus and Saturn. When did that happen? That happened on the 22nd of January 2023, vibrating to a 30/3. This is Hesed. This is the Four of Wands. 3 is creative self-expression. When you add the 0, there's the God force here. So this is sort of divine creative self-expression. At 25 degrees of Aquarius, what's the symbol? The butterfly with its right wing more perfectly formed. What does Dane Rudger say about this? Well, he says the keynote is the capacity to develop the rational and fully conscious aspect of the mind ahead of normal evolution. So this is about really, we've spent so much time evolving our logical brain that we need to deal with the other side of things. And it says this symbol deals with the management of human energies at the emotional level. Here, management means overcoming this on the basis of negative or ego challenging experiences. So this is overcoming your ego challenges to mature emotionally, mature emotionally. As Pluto moved through Capricorn, we evolve through the polarity point of Pluto. And so the polarity point of Pluto and Capricorn is Pluto and Cancer, or is Cancer, it's not Pluto and Cancer, it's Cancer. And so we've had to become emotionally self-reliant and not rely on the powers that be or those in power or the structures. We had to rely on ourselves to come to terms with what we were going through and the changes we were going through. Now we move to Pluto in Aquarius. The polarity point is Leo. So it's about being in our heart. It's a self-expressing. It's shining our light. Leo is where the divine light shines within each of us, right? We are a spark of the divine. So now we have these two planets at these 2 points, right? So we have Cancer, we have Venus at Cancer at 7 degrees, and it says two nature spirits dancing under the moonlight, the play of invisible forces in all manifestation of life, creative imagination. Creative imagination is the path of the Empress card in the tarot. It is about just that. Imagination equals creation equals manifestation. Okay, if you can't imagine it and see it in your mind's eye, you will never see it in front of you. So that's where it starts. Trine, now remember, trines are supportive, brings energy too. There's a flow. So there's a flow between the creative imagination and the symbol for 7 degrees of Pisces, illumined by a shaft of light. A large cross lies on rocks surrounded by sea mist. The spiritual blessing which strengthens individuals who happen, what may, stand uncompromisingly for their own truth, self-assertion. So this is about creative imagination and self-assertion. This is about shining your light. Look at this beautiful height in this chart. We have a grand trine in water. We have a kite being formed with the North Node and Mercury, our minds, and we can't not include Jupiter here in Aries, new initiatory ideas, right? And we have the South Node here. And then, of course, we have Pluto square the nodes. And now Mars is coming into orb of its opposition to Pluto. And when Mars goes into Leo on the 20th, this closes up, right? This closes up. But we will have connections through Saturn in Pisces to be able to access this giant square that we're going to have, and probably also we'll have access through Neptune as well. Both both Neptune in Pisces and Saturn in Pisces, with the energy of Pisces, asking us to let go, to forgive, to let go of the past, and to move into the future, right? To move into the future. So that is what is going on, folks. And just show you for next week quickly here on Sunday, we have Mercury making its station at 6 degrees of Taurus. So it goes direct on the 14th. Monday, there's a trine between Mars and Neptune. This is trine is flowing energy. This is a big wave. This is a wave. This is a tsunami here. On Tuesday, the 16th, we have Jupiter ingress into Taurus. And then the next day, making that first quarter square to Pluto. This is a crisis point in the synodic cycle that began when 2020. These two planets had 3 conjunctions in 2020, each one of which created a spike in the COVID numbers. On Thursday, we have the Sun making a sextile to Neptune. We're speaking to spirit here. Friday, Mercury making a sextile to Saturn, along with the new moon at 29 degrees of Taurus, very close to the star Algol. And then on Saturday, we have Mars make an opposition to Pluto. So I just wanted to mention that to show you what we're going to be talking about next week, because this is a lot of stuff and it's very intense. And I think we have to take it a step at a time, or at least I do. How about you? All right, let me stop the share here. All right, guys, so let me show you the ceiling now. I don't know why I waited until I was in a tiny little thing. But yeah, there's all the planets, and there's the sun and the moon back there, a little crow. And this is my Cancer painting, and that's my Aquarius painting. I don't know why those two were just happened to be up there. Oh, I guess Venus in Cancer, right? There you go, Venus in Cancer, Pluto in Aquarius. The first aspect of the week. There it is, right there. All right, guys, have yourself a wonderful week. Like, subscribe if you haven't. You can check out, let's see, what have I done? I did a 5/5 portal, full moon in Scorpio reading. That's a good one to see. I did a moonshine episode with Ona. You can find that on Ona's Tarot. We talked about this eclipse and the full moon energy. And just my dailies, and I'm doing shorts. I have to figure that out. I'm still don't feel comfortable with that. There's like a certain way of approaching them, and I haven't figured quite out how to do it to make it more interesting and maybe less verbose. So we'll see how I do on that. Trying to stop me from talking, not easy. Amazing for a retrograde Cancer Mercury, right? Anyway, sometimes you got to do what makes you uncomfortable. All right, take care, everyone. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you again next week. Namaste.